How? Huh? Like, how? How? Just how? You know, like, mm, like how? You know, like how? You guys, um, like how? Like I don't even get like an average of 500 views on these episodes, unless you count first episodes, in which case I do get a lot of views on those, but then it normally just goes downhill by a lot for the rest of the series. So just how, I get it. Some people don't have enough time to like binge watch it all, because that's a lot of hours, especially for What If Deku was in One Piece. But just how, but hey, I said I'd do this at 500 subs, so I guess we're doing this. And when we reached 500 subs was last night, around midnight, just before midnight, really, when I went to sleep. I had to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then I had to do, daily stuff, and it sucked. I was tired throughout that entire thing, and I'm tired now, but I'm doing this. But, here we are, doing this. Yeah. Okay. Batmobile. I couldn't find a really good picture of the Batmobile, so I just picked one that had guns on it and then went with that. And Batsuit, because this is the best picture of a Batsuit that I could find online. Because honestly, I didn't think we were going to get to 500, but we did. So I had to find one quickly, because I didn't want to do this the day after. The only reason I didn't do it yesterday is because, well, the day was almost done anyway, and there's no way I was going to finish recording an entire part in that. So yeah. Anyway, this is what Izuku looks like in this one. Much more mature. Anyway, so let's get into it. What if Deku was Batman? Part 1. How this starts out is the Midoriya family is basically the Japanese version of the Wayne family. So his name is still Izuku Midoriya, but the Midoriya family is the Japanese equivalent of the, Wayne family. So what happens is, basically, for those of you who don't know Batman's backstory, so basically he's rich. He's rich as, as a kid. And his family is actually, fund many, hero projects across Japan, and they're a big business that covers multiple areas, including support item creation. But it's not, support item creation isn't their main thing. Basically, they do make stuff that helps with everyday life for people that have quirks that have drastic downsides to make it difficult for them to live. So those people, they get special equipment to help make life easier for them. So say someone has a mutation type quirk, for example, and that makes it hard for them to live on land, then what they do is they create like a collar, kind of a thing that has water in it, that continuously filters so that they can actually like breathe. Like it's like basically like they have fish gills, and every once in a while they have to breathe through their gills. They could survive on land for a while, but eventually they need to go back in the water. So they create these collars that help them survive and go about normal daily human life. And stuff like that. And that's what, the Wayne family, or Midoriya family in this case, specializes in. The Wayne family is in America, but we're not touching on them since they're not important to this series. At all. That's just their whole thing. That's a whole other thing that I'm not going to get into. Eventually, maybe. But for now, not so much. Anyway, what are we going to do? Well, you guys are wondering by now if you watched the that one video that said the teaser for this series something about All for One. We'll get into that. So basically, we're going to start off. He's born into the Midoriya family, which is very rich, as I said, and they're really, and he's not spoiled. They don't spoil him, but they raise him to be how put this more mature than everyone else. He has this aura of maturity, even as a 4-year-old. He understands, and in fact he wants to take over the business and even expand the business when he takes it over when he grows up. Like, that's his whole thing. He's not obsessive over heroes at all. He believes that they are necessary. He believes that All Might does his job and he does it well. Some other heroes, not so much. The lower level heroes, they do take out low-level crimes better, but that's not what heroes are about. He sees heroes as somebody... He sees that if you're going to be called a hero, you need to be like the strongest of the strong. You can't call yourself a hero if you can't take out a strong villain. You see what I'm saying? That in his eyes, heroes have to have strength, and if you don't have strength, you're not a hero. If you care about what the public says about you, you're not a hero. You see what I'm saying? This is his mentality. Keep in mind he's 4. And when he's 4 and he still hasn't developed a quirk, his mom has telekinesis, and actually his mom has a dimensional quirk. And the reason he sees heroes as strong is actually because his mother is actually a hero, one of the top 10 heroes. And she has a dimensional quirk which she can, create portals and create pocket dimensions and stuff like this. And his father has the ability to create weapons at will, so when he didn't develop a quirk, they didn't know why he didn't. Because they both had quirks, not only that, but extremely powerful quirks. So when he didn't develop a quirk, it was strange, to say the least. Because 99% of the population is born with quirks. And unless I say otherwise, in most of my what-ifs, the percentage of quirkless people is going to be 1%. Just because it makes more sense that way. Yeah. So, when he doesn't have a quirk, they're curious as to why he doesn't have a quirk. What actually happens is we're going to go back to when he was born. He was in the hospital, and a man in a suit, a very well tailored suit with white hair and red eyes, and looked extremely young. Though he really wasn't. He was actually almost 200 years old now. And he went up to the boy whose parents he knew were, one, a hero that had a powerful, portal quirk, as well as a man who, by the name of Hisashi Midoriya, because we're just going to keep it with the real names, because it just makes it easier on me since I'm not writing a script for this. And so he uses his quirk to take the child's quirk before anyone could even realize that he had a quirk. And before anyone could notice that he was there, he was gone. Even the cameras didn't show him being there at all. An effect of one of his other quirks being Technopath, the ability to control technology. However, it is a very weak Technopath quirk, as it only allows you to make cameras and other things not see certain things, but you can't, manipulate technology to fire lasers or some shit. You see what I'm saying? And you can manipulate it slightly to basically erase the fact that you were even there. But you can't do it any physically. You can't force the technology to move or anything with it. But it is a very useful quirk when you don't want to be seen. Or you want to delete your existence from the world records. And what happens is he goes to a man who's dressed like a doctor and has these weird goggles on and this puffy, this overgrown eyebrows, really. I didn't know you had to shave your eyebrows, but that man definitely has to shave his eyebrows. Those are bushy as... But, I digress. And tells the man to make sure that he is the person that the Midoriya family goes to for their son, Izuku Midoriya. And to tell them that he is indeed quirkless. Now we go back to the present time, in which, Izuku's told that he doesn't have a quirk, and Izuku doesn't give a shit. He couldn't give two flying fucks about having a quirk or not. He just doesn't care. He doesn't need one. He's already extremely intelligent for a 4-year-old. He's already learning what he needs to do for business at 4 years old. You see what I'm saying? So he's an extremely intelligent child, and he doesn't need a quirk for what he's doing. Is he kind of sad that he doesn't have a quirk that kind of will help him in his business endeavors, that will make him even smarter, perhaps? A little bit, but he digresses. It doesn't matter. That just means he has to become smarter on his own, which is entirely possible. It's not like he wants to become a hero like his mother. He just respects heroes, but he doesn't want to be one. And so they go home. And they run into a drunken, what do we call this? A drunken lackey of All for One, who, being drunk, and thinking that it would be best to just make sure that no tracks were left behind and just kill the Midoriya family altogether, so no one even knows that, so no one could ever happen because he's a drunk and an idiot. It says, I got something along the lines of, I have to kill you to erase All for One's tracks. Izuku hears this, and however, it's too late as both Ingo and Hisashi get shot. Right. And are bleeding out. And this lackey is going to go for Izuku, but, Inko gets in the way, and that's how she gets shot and how she bleeds to death before another hero arrives and, just knocks out the lackey. But Inko does die, along with Hisashi, before the hero can get them to, a hospital or even just an ambulance. They're already dead. Too many bullet wounds, too much blood loss. So I've heard this rumor. I don't know if it's true. I've only heard it from second-hand sources. Haven't read the comics, so cannot confirm. And I barely remember the movies. I'm gonna have to rewatch them later. But what ends up happening is Izuku ends up getting trained by the League of Assassins because, from what I've heard from second-hand sources, is that Batman himself was trained by the League of Assassins. So what we're going to say is Izuku was indeed trained by the League of Assassins and was gone for quite some time. 5 years, to be exact. Now Izuku is 9 years old. Actually, we'll bump it up to he was gone for 6 years. And so now he's 10. And when he comes back, he finds that someone is taken over, Midoriya Incorporated, taken over his company that was rightfully given to him by his parents in their will. Well, so when he comes back and, has blood tests already done and saying that he's, Izuku Midoriya, and therefore the rightful owner, they try to tear that shit up and no, that's too bad, and Izuku just fucking gut punches him, and he, hard, he starts coughing up blood hard, before he can even rip them, Izuku sees that he's trying to do that, he just fucking gut punches him, to the point where he starts coughing up blood, and Izuku picks the papers back up, and he says, "Get out of my building." Keep in mind he's 10. So, just imagine that for a minute, a 10-year-old punching someone in the gut hard enough for them to cough up blood. I don't think anyone's gonna mess with that kid, and if they did, well, they're getting the same treatment. So everyone fucking yep, okay. As they force the person who took over Wayne Incorporated and tried to, even though he had physical evidence that he was Izuku Midoriya, tried to rip it up and pretend like it never existed, and they toss him out of there. And now acknowledge Izuku as, the new, person in charge, the new CEO of Midoriya Incorporated. And so, what ends up happening is they're all just gonna try and manipulate him, but that ain't working on him. And keep in mind, Izuku did all of this for revenge. This is a revenge plot. If you saw the teaser, he wants revenge for whoever this All for One is. and that's his whole goal here. So he takes over, his family's company. Even at the age of 10 years old, he's in charge. And he goes from, and he drastically, like within a year, like he's drastically increased. Also, UA is a college in this, just because the older looking Izuku, it makes more sense if it's a college. Much more buff Izuku makes more sense if he's a college. If UA is a college. So yeah, UA is going to be a college in this. I don't know what the ship is for this, so suggestions. There's a Discord for a reason, It should be in the description if I remember. Anyway, because there's a specific place on the Discord where I go to for any ideas concerning what ifs. So like ships and all that, that's done in Discord. Because I'm not going to remember to come back to this video for the ship, and then I'll end up coming up with it myself, so Discord's there for a reason. Anyway, moving on. What actually happens is, Izuku drastically expands the support items in both strength and quantity, as well as quality, because you gotta have quality. I think quality and strength are pretty much the same thing in this case, but they are more durable and stuff like that, so I guess we could put that in the quality section, making it its own thing. But they are much more durable, they're much more powerful, and emit a lot more, help a lot more than they did before, as well as they make a lot more of them. And everyone's just surprised that this 10-year-old was able to come up with these ideas to, for these different quirks and all this. You see what I'm saying? He's super intelligent. He's very intelligent. He really is. During this year, what Izuku does is, back at Midoriya Manor, which is technically left for him in his will, which hasn't been touched since he disappeared, since no one could confirm whether he was dead or not. The company had to be moved on to someone else because it was such an important company. But the house itself, since no one could confirm that he was dead or not, was left alone. Plus, no one could afford it anyway, so there was no point. Except for maybe the Yaoyorozus, but the Yaoyorozus respected the Midoriya family enough to know not to fuck with him. To know that, to just leave the house alone, really. Not to not fuck with them, but to, leave it alone, even if in just memory of their passing. So people are probably going to make Momo the ship in this, and I wouldn't blame you. I'm thinking about it too. But I'll leave it up to you guys, and if I don't get anything, then I'm going to have to say Momo's the ship. But for now, we're going to continue with this. But what ends up happening is, during this year, he goes back to Midoriya Manor and, lives there alone, and he hires a singular butler, and we're going to call him William. Why? Because I'm not ripping off Alfred. I'm using Batman, but I'm not using Alfred. But he's basically Alfred. We're just not calling him Alfred because I don't know much about Alfred, honestly. I know he's 10 out of 10 best butler. But I know little to nothing about him as a character, so I know he's smart as shit though, so I know he can probably kick someone's ass, because no way Batman's not going to have a butler that can't kick ass. Yeah. I've heard a few things about him kicking someone's ass too, so you know. Yeah, so he does have a butler that knows about what he's going to do. Oh, and in that year, he builds the Bat Cave, the Batmobile, and, you know, all of his weapons that he will use. And, yeah. So, now after the year is done and he's 11, he is officially Batman. And he's going out and stopping low-level crimes and, you know, spraying a bat symbol on the walls where he ties up all the villains and leaves them in front of it. So when the cops and then leaves a message for the cops anonymously, of course. And, they're just... So when the cops get there, all they see is that and a bat symbol. And I think by anonymously, I think he would actually say Batman. You know, he would say his name, and then the police would be confused, and then once they see all the people tied up in the bat symbol, they'd say, "Oh, great! It's a new vigilante." You know. In this version of the world, at least, a vigilante is someone who uses their quirk illegally, but still is using it to stop villains. Izuku does not have a quirk anymore. As I said in the beginning, his quirk was stolen by All For One. And, in case that wasn't blatantly obvious. You know, so... And since Izuku isn't using his quirk to take down people, he's using physical strength, weapons, and tactics. You know, he's smart. And this suit more or less looks like this, but sized for an 11-year-old. So he's just going around spray painting the bat symbol, you know, at every crime he stops, until eventually he goes to a place and it's actually a trap set, and then there's a bunch of question marks everywhere there before someone appears on the screen saying, "I am the Riddler." I don't see much of the Riddler, so, you know, don't expect much. But basically, there's gas he gives Batman, as he's heard him over the past few weeks have passed of him doing this, and, you know, he gets caught by this new villain calling himself the Riddler, who has a vast intelligence, but the downside is it makes him kind of fucking crazy. And he constantly coming up with these riddles and forcing people to solve them or they die. You know, very deadly riddles. So not any normal ones by any means. In this, the only person that Izuku actually knows is Momo. It's the only person he knows personally because their families knew each other, in case that wasn't obvious. So he's never met Bakugo. Though Mitsuki and Inko were still childhood friends, he never met Bakugo. By the time he was 4, he hadn't met Bakugo, and his parents died. And he had disappeared, and he never got the chance to meet Mitsuki. He knew about Mitsuki, Bakugo, and her husband, but he never met them or their kid. But he knows about them. And, because I forgot to say that earlier. But what ends up happening is this room that he's in right now is slowly filling with gas. Slowly. Ever so slowly, it's filling with gas. And there's a bunch of different things. He has to go here, he has to go there. or get this, use this to unlock this, to do that. Basically an escape room, if any of you have ever done that, which they're really fun and you should do them. Not alone. You're going to need some help maybe, unless you're a genius. I know I needed help, because I'm big and dumb, but, basically, it's like an escape room, and I don't have time to come up with an elaborate escape room and describe it in utter detail. But the Riddler's riddles are difficult. That's a tongue twister for you. Basically, in the end, Batman, or Izuku, being, as smart as he is, gets through it rather easily. Before the gas can even reach the room that he's in, by the time the gas actually reaches the room that he was in, he's already in the next room, and that just continues over and over again. And eventually he gets out. However, the Riddler, having cameras set up there to monitor him, does see that he's very short in stature, but very muscular. And sees the suit, as nobody really sees Batman, as he does most of his work at night. Jeez, who keeps opening the door? And so the Riddler knows what his suit looks like and everything, because he's been monitored, and he puts those images out there for other villains to see, and the police end up finding it too when they go to some of the crime scenes, and the heroes give them all the information they know, and some of it is on Batman. And so this is how people find out about Batman. Some people say, oh, he's a real hero. Oh, others say, oh, he's not a hero, he's a menace, he should just get his own hero license, and they don't understand why, so they call him a menace because he's doing things outside of the law, because people think he's using some sort of super strength quirk or something to do all this, but using his quirk illegally, but he doesn't have one, therefore he's not technically a vigilante, but he's also not a hero either, because if he's not using his quirk, then he's technically not considered a vigilante and still working within the law. See what I'm saying? As long as he's not using a quirk, he's doing what he's doing, fighting villains and all that, is within the law, technically speaking. He has broken no laws. Will some people think that it should be? Yeah, mainly the police force will think that it should be against the law, but it's not against the law. There's nothing in the laws that say you can't fight crime without a quirk. There's nothing in the laws that say that you need a hero's license to fight villains without a quirk. A hero's license is so that you can use your quirk against people who use their quirk, when they shouldn't, villains and stuff like that. But nothing says that you can't do that without using your quirk. See what I'm saying? So, technically, Izuku isn't breaking any laws. So, there you go. And so, what ends up happening is... So what ends up happening is that... So what ends up happening is, Batman continuously escapes the Riddler even though the Riddler's riddles are getting even harder, he's still passing them easily. And, the Riddler sees that over the next few years, the next 5 years to be exact, he's getting bigger, which means that he's a child, not some person who has dwarfism or something. He's a child. And he's kicking ass. By this point in time, when he's 16, which puts him at this look, like, he's already taken down hundreds of villains each year. Keep in mind, he's been doing this since he was 11. Just fucking going around town in this thing, heroes chasing him down, but none of them succeeding. And he does, and at this point he's 16, and what happens is what's it called? What ends up happening is he has to meet with the Yaoyorozus for a business meeting, as their two businesses do work together from time to time. So the Yaoyorozus come over and see Zuko, and it's a heartfelt reunion of two families that have not seen each other in a long time. One being only one person left, and they're like apologizing, and he's just like, stop. It's not your fault. You haven't done anything, so don't apologize. It's unbecoming. It's foolish. And the business meeting goes on, and they're surprised by how intelligent Izuku was. Like, he was a natural born prodigy, but none of them knew how strong that he truly was. Now, here's the thing. So, Izuku at this point in time, he can lift as much as Batman can. Which if I remember correctly, I believe Batman could literally bench press a literal ton. Like a literal metric ton. I might be wrong about that. But since we're in My Hero Academia universe, we're going to say that at this point in time he could at least bench press a ton, even without a quirk. Even without super strength or anything, he could bench press a ton. He's muscular as fuck. Look, like he is here. This is his amount of muscle, and this is where he will stay at for his entirety of his teenage years and his young to mid-20s. His early to mid-20s. Yeah. So, Izuku does get, cut up from time to time, but not really anything major or anything like that. Never like wounds to the gut, wounds to the back, just like scrapes across the arms or shoulders or face. But none of them are bad enough to actually scar Izuku. He hasn't faced any major villains except for the Riddler. And the Riddler is just more of an annoyance than anything else. Sometimes the Riddler takes hostages, which is just like pissing Izuku off, because like this is just annoying. And it's like, oh, you have to save the hostages kind of bullshit. And basically what Izuku's been doing in the background this entire time is looking for All For One, and he thinks that the Riddler might have connections to him, which is why he's so focused on the Riddler. And by the end of, one of the hostages, they're like, he saves the hostages, they're all out of there. When he hears this strange, unnerving laugh. Remember, he's 16 at this point and has this look. More the physical look of that, not the suit. Suit's still this one. But, So yeah, let's just leave it at this picture because we're talking combat right now. And so he's kind of just how do I put this? It's a very unnerving laugh. It says, "Hello, bats." Pretty sure all of you know who this is. This is the Joker. I've been wanting to meet you for quite some time. From what I hear from my men that actually survive, or, well, don't get sent to prison, you're looking for someone. Who is it? I think I could help. And Izuku's not believing shit that this man is saying. You know what I'm saying? He just, no. He's not believing a single word out of this man's mouth. Oh. And, you know, trying to, like, just locate him. And when he does, he sees this man in clown makeup just laughing his ass off. He's just like, this is annoying. I mean, he doesn't want to have to deal with this. He wants to find All For One and avenge his parents. It's by sending All For One to prison. Maybe kicking his ass until he's a bloody pulp first, but sending him to prison for the rest of his life nonetheless. And so what he ends up doing is, he tries to beat his ass, but this Joker is, he could take a punch. Even from Izuku, who can literally lift a fucking metric ton, he could take a punch. So Izuku just sends him flying through several buildings, but, and when he gets there, he finds the Riddler. And the Riddler isn't a combat-oriented person. He's like riddles. He uses riddles to, defeat his opponents. And the Riddler has actually killed several heroes with his riddles. It was, more the low-level, heroes, but some top 100 people, like low top 100. Yeah, so, Izuku's going after him, because the Joker, he's new, he doesn't care, yet. And it's because the Joker hasn't been seen to be deadly at all, just fucking psychotic. And so he goes and, grabs the, Riddler, and just starts, where's All For One? Kind of a thing, And, deep voice. I can't do Batman voice, but in this, Izuku does have the Batman voice. You guys are gonna have to use your imaginations, because I'm not good at voice acting. And, basically what he does is, trying to shake him down for information. And, Joker pulls out a gun and, tries to shoot him, but, suit, bulletproof, yeah. Yeah, that's, pretty much it, And, but the Riddler, doesn't talk, because the Riddler doesn't have an actual connection to All For One. And that's when Joker pipes up saying, All For One, huh? I might know a thing or two. Come on, play with me a little, bats. So I can definitely help you. If you can let me have some fun. It's very creepy. I can't make it nearly as creepy as I want it to be, but it's fucking creepy. And so what ends up happening is he starts fighting with the Joker. And All Might shows up. He's like, great. It's because he's had to fight many, many heroes up to this point, including Endeavor, and he's won against all of them without a problem. He has a contingency, just like regular Batman, he has a contingency for every hero in case they end up going rogue. And he still has respect for All Might, but the way he sees it now, All Might is getting in his way. So, All Might's like, I'm sorry, kiddo, but I have to take you in. Because everyone pretty much thinks he's a kid at this point because his short stature and just growing more and more over time. Because remember, the first images of him were released when he was short, and now he's much bigger. Not All Might sized, but pretty big. Not All Might sized in terms of muscular, but he's maybe a foot to half a foot shorter than All Might in his buff form. And at this point in time, All Might's taken that injury to, the chest. And Izuku's mask, if you've played the video games, it has a weird, locator feature and scanning feature and all that, like the Iron Man suit. Nanotechnology, man. So he's just fucking scanning for weakness from what, and, notices, the wound, and boom, instant contingency plan. And so All Might goes in for, a Detroit smash, and Izuku just fucking, or Batman, I'll say, because he's in his batsuit, and just fucking knees him right in the fucking wound. This immediately causes, pain to go through All Might, clutching the wound and falling to the ground with smoke going up, as this immediately causes him to think that he knew about his wound, which means that he had to have worked for All for One and known about, the battle that happened. So All Might's starting to think that he worked for All for One, and maybe by the slightest chance All for One survived, then he's currently working with All for One. But at the same time, he's starting to think, wait, that doesn't make sense because he's going against villains. But maybe it's villains who deny All for One, So that's what's going through his mind. He's working with All for One to get rid of other villains that don't work, that decide not to work with All for One. And so All Might's starting to think of him more as a villain than a vigilante at this point. But at the same time, he's also helped people. So All Might's just confused. But it doesn't make sense since he knew about his wound. But, as Batman is leaving, he just says, "We all have a weakness. I suggest you do better at protecting yours. It was very easy to find out. All I had to do was scan your body. It was pretty simple, really. Yeah. Maybe you should have some, lead in your clothing to prevent that from happening again. After all, you are a symbol of peace. But I'm the symbol of fear to every villain." As he just disappears, which clears shit up for All Might a little bit. He's still having his doubts at what he believed in, because it could easily just be a lie to, mislead him from the fact that he's working for All for One. So there's that bit of confusion there. By now, And because of the whole event that I kind of skimmed over his parents' deaths, but Izuku pieced together from what the drunken bastard was saying that All for One did something to him specifically that he didn't want to let anyone know about, which is why the person killed his parents. So Izuku figures that All for One did something to him, and that quite possibly he, from all the information he's gathered, won All for One over the years, especially with the League of Assassins, being trained with the League of Assassins. I think the League of Assassins would know a few things. So I think he would know that All for One has the ability to steal quirks, and therefore he would put it together that he did have a quirk and it was stolen from him. And now he wants it back so that he can do a better job than the heroes are, because now he's realizing that, because after his parents died, he realized that the heroes don't do their job well enough. He's thinking that they don't do their job well enough, so he has to do it for them. So now, but not necessarily wanting to become a hero, because he can't do that without a quirk. It's technically, you're not considered a hero without a quirk, just the same as you're not considered a vigilante without a quirk. You're just considered somebody who fights crime, but no quirkless person has ever done that before. You see what I'm saying? No quirkless person has ever done vigilante work. No quirkless person has ever been a hero, because you need a quirk to do those things. You need a quirk to fight off people with quirks. Izuku, though, doesn't. So Izuku leaves and goes back to the Batcave using the Batmobile. Well, All Might thinks that, knowing no information on that, he was asking for where All for One is, or anything about All for One at all, thinking that there's the possibility that he could be working with All for One, but there's also the possibility that he could, be working against All for One. And there's no evidence that supports either of those beyond his words. So All for One relays this to a bunch of different heroes, like the top 50 heroes, as well as UA. Like, the top 50 heroes are all at UA for a conference, and, because Batman is that bad. After people found out that Batman was able to beat All Might, it drew a lot of attention to Batman, saying that he's even stronger than All Might, and we don't even know what his quirk is, and blah 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 blah. Basically, yeah, that's how it is. So there's a whole meeting about what's going on with the top 50 heroes and all the teachers at UA and all that, which is a college. And they're saying that he started out as a child, and as you said, is probably around the ages of 10 to 13-ish, which would put him around, since he's been doing this for 5 years, that would put him around 15 to 18 years old. And he says, what he's thinking is he's doing a better job than most heroes. So what Nezu suggests is that if he actually wishes to work with us instead of against us, and do actual hero work within the law, and since he is so young, to let him go to UA, since he would be in the age group that would be entering UA soon, if he is indeed on the older spectrum of Nezu's estimates. Some people are against this, specifically like Endeavor and all that. Others are just staying silent, as it would. However, Mirko speaks up saying that it would be nice to finally have a challenge in the hero world. Being the cocky person that she is, thinking she's the shit, which she fucking is. She's as far as my knowledge goes, she's the strongest female hero. Yeah. So that's going on, and eventually it's not unanimous, but majority rules. They're gonna let him into UA and become a hero. But with all he's done, he's doing better work than all the heroes, so it might be easier just to make him take the final test to earn a hero's license, and then just let him keep doing what he's doing, except this way within the law, and then have him go to UA as like some sort of like teacher's assistant, and so that he can teach the students even better than other people, because he seems to have a lot more experience than most heroes. And yeah, and he's like, and Nezu's like, for most of us, and to people who say against that they can teach better, as most of you are strong, yes, but he knows how to keep to the shadows, how to go unnoticed until the situation is diffused, and therefore saving many, many, many more lives. Because he has not lost a single person to a threat, to a hostage situation, even once, because no one has seen him until they were all taken out. So teaching our students how to be able to do that, how to stay in the shadows until all the enemies are taken out, so to limit hostage deaths, would be very useful, and that's not something that all of us are good at, and therefore he would be a very useful asset to teaching. Which is not wrong. He really isn't wrong. Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave this part here. So, one more thing. What if Deku was in One Piece? That's probably not going to come out for another month. I hope at the most it comes out in 3 to 4 weeks. But a lot of you want high school. What if Deku was in High School DxD? Which I am going to start working on scripts for that. So I am starting the scripts for that, since so many of you seem to really want it. But today I'm really tired. I got like 6 hours of sleep last night, and maybe not even that really, because I kept waking up and then having to go back to sleep. Which is even more tiring than just getting 6 hours of sleep, if I'm being honest. Like you get, I think the least amount of sleep I've gotten is like 1 to 2 hours, and I could say with adamance that I could go the rest of the day with only 1 to 2 hours of sleep, but waking up and then going back to sleep, and then waking up and then going back to sleep, that's even more tiring than just getting 2 hours of sleep. Yeah, so basically, so I'm gonna try and work on the script, which I haven't realized how little I've gotten through in that. I've only done 3 parts. I've done 3 parts, and I've barely gotten through like the first half of season 1. Anyway, so the next video I'm doing is going to be part 4 of What If Deku Was in High School DxD, and there's a script for that, which means it's going to take longer to come out. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. This is Blazing What Ifs, blazing away. Yeah. Goodbye.